Welcome to Topper Machine. I'm Josh Topper. So today's job is to make some special tooling for what is probably my favorite machine in the whole shop to run, the Morey Vertical Slotter. So this is the part that we actually have to cut the keyway in. It's a 1-inch wide keyway, -1 + 1. And this one is 4 thousandths over. So this part is scrapped. And the customer sent it to me to practice on, build my tooling and see how I can do on it. I'm doing a lot of other stuff for them. They're really good guys to work with over there. And what I'm going to cut that with is these Morris Keyseater cutters. And we're going to go ahead and make the bar that these bolt into and then set it up for our Morey Vertical Slotter. So the first thing I'm going to do is face off both ends and put a nice chamfer on there, just to give myself a starting point. And I'm actually going to make this bar long and then set it up with different stops so that I can use it for different lengths. So what I'm using here is just a Schar's 3-insert TPG style 320 series cutter. And actually I've got a couple of these. I bought them. They're cheap. The inserts are cheap and they're something you'd have in your home shop, but they work good on these low horsepower mills. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a skim cut, probably face it off to about 1 inch wide, down a ways, and that'll give me a reference point for flipping it in the vise and getting everything lined up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start it up. I'm running about I'm on the 1115 RPM setting. Just bring it over and then we'll crank it until we touch off. And of course I got the camera right in the way so I can't just crank. There we are. And we'll start with 125 thou cut. And I'll just play with my feed rate until I get it right where I want it. Vice handle caught the tripod there. Now I'm going to back this off and take just like 50 thou off of the rest of it. And this will actually be the surface that our cutter mounts into. All right, so we got our first cut done. Looks really nice, actually, nice surface finish. And what we're gonna do is flip it over and mill a flat on the other side for our reference. Now, this is one of the cutters I made quite some time ago, and this is what we're gonna wind up with when we're done, is a shank, this big rectangle, and a tool holder in the end, except we'll have our Morris Keyseater tools fitting in down here. So let's get milling on the other side. I'm just going to take 100 thou on this side. Okay, so we got our flat reference milled on two sides actually, and we'll go ahead and we'll flip it over now, and then we'll mill in the pocket for the Keyseater cutter. So here's our key seat cutter, and we'll go ahead and get the protective coating off of it. These are M42. These come from a guy out in California, Sharp-Right Tool, and he's making key seat cutters for everything made. So, but these are the Morrison version. These are actually really nice because I can make one bar and then use multiple different sizes. So we'll go ahead and measure this thing and see where we're at. And these are supposed to be a very tight fit in the bar. He said you want no more than 1 or 2 thousandths, and it looks like we are 748. So if we go 750 right on, we should be good as far as a width. And as far as the depth goes, oh, it'll actually fit in like that. We're just going to machine in from the end, not make a pocket on the bottom because I need as much depth as possible. With the slotter, I don't have a lot of travel. I've got 12 inches of travel. So I need to make this as close to the bottom as I can. And we'll just mill into here, and then we'll take a small end mill and square it out so it fits nicely. All right, guys, don't beat me up too bad. This is an indexable end mill. This is a 5/8 cut, and it is a Schar's of all things. Now, where I live in this remote, desolate wasteland, I can't even get a tooling rep to show up. So I wind up buying a lot of tooling, just cheap stuff, and trying it out and see if I like it, and then I go and buy the good stuff. If I could get a tooling rep out here to really go through and work with me on this, I'd buy the good stuff right off the bat. So, but this thing actually has worked. I've used it for a few jobs. I had a little crash with it, but it still cuts good. And we're going to go ahead and rough out this opening with this thing, and then we'll finish it off with a regular end mill. So we'll go ahead and get this thing set up and ready to cut. And before anybody beats me up over indicating my back jaw, I did that before I even started. That's one of the first things I always do. So I'll bring it up, touch it off. And this groove is actually is actually 400 thou deep. So we're going to start with 100 thou at a time. I'll bring it in, touch it off. We're going in 2 inches. And I went a little far there. But we're not going to go all the way because we're going to actually finish this off with an end mill. That's a noisy little sucker. I wonder if one of my inserts isn't just bad. So there's our first cut, 100 thou deep. Actually looks pretty good other than getting a burr there. And I don't know, the inserts seem okay, so we'll just keep on cutting. And maybe I'm just going too deep for the cutter, but I like to push. right, we're just going to take and get a rough idea where we are. And looks like this thing cuts just a little under, about 5 thou under, according to the caliper. So we'll go ahead and, I wonder if I can get, doesn't look like I can get full depth of cut, but I'd like to widen it out more before we go to our smaller end mill. And I think we'll go ahead and probably take 200 at a try. So we're going to go ahead and take 50 off of the side, and I'm going to climb mill this. All right, there's our 50. We'll put a little tension on our gib here and see how it cuts. And we are 710, so we got around 40 thou to take yet with our high-speed steel cutter when we get to that point, but we'll go ahead and we'll finish roughing this out. All right, we're still good there. My camera battery died there. I had to go and change batteries. Obviously, it's always at the worst possible spot that these batteries go dead, but you get the idea. And that seemed to cut really well. Now we'll grab a smaller end mill and we'll just clean up these edges, widen it out, and then square off the back end where the tool fits. So I got a 3/16 end mill in there now. And what I'm going to do is just come in. I'm going to bottom it out in there, and then I'll back it off and come back in with the knee 1/1000th less. But actually I need to do something else first. I need to touch off on the end so that I know I'm in the right spot. So we'll go ahead and do that. And there it is. So we zeroed the digital readout. Now we'll go back to our 1 thou less. And in theory, we shouldn't cut, and we're not cutting. Perfect. So we'll bring it in and touch it off. And that cutter left a little radius in there, down in the bottom. Actually, it didn't even cut perfectly straight. So I'm going to start out a little less. I'm going to start at 260 and we'll go ahead and see where we're at. A little bit of oil and it isn't not quite cutting, so we can actually take a little more. Of course, I went the wrong way. Alright, let's try this again. All we're trying to do now is square it up and see right where we are. And once we get everything trued up, then we can take our finish passes and clean this thing up. I'm going to go ahead and blow that out a little bit so I don't have all that crap in there. Now we'll go ahead and put a little more oil on it again. And go ahead and come over to the other side. I'll go ahead and blow that out again, and we'll start cutting the other direction. It appears we got a little ways to go yet, but I'm going to measure this. I'm going to throw a gauge block in there and just see where we are exactly. So my caliper was measuring 715. And this right here is 714. 715 wouldn't quite fit. So I know my caliper is very close, so I'll kind of go by that for now. But always check, with gauge blocks or whatever you have. So I got a 600 and a 114 here. And that's how I'm getting my 714, which I also measured with my micrometer to make sure that was correct. So we've got about 36 thousandths to go, and I think I'm just going to take that 18 aside. Actually, I'll come down to 17 aside, see where I'm at, and then final touch it off. And then we'll switch to a smaller end mill and come on into these corners and just go back and forth to square that off more so we have a good positive lock in there. So we got side lock, and then the very end will be absolutely square to butt to also. All right, so we started at 265 off center each way, and we're going to go ahead and take another 17, which will be 75, 82. Boy, I'm showing right close, about 48. Let me grab the cutter and see if it fits in. The tighter it is on that cutter, the better it'll be. And not quite. She won't quite drop in there. So we'll just have to take just a little more to clean that up. So I'm going to go ahead and take 1 thou more on each side, and there'll be some tool pressure, but we'll go ahead and just see if this opens it up. I'll just be nice and gentle about it. There is material coming off. And we're so close to the finished size that it isn't going to take much to get us there. And just see if it fits. It's closer. Much closer. So we'll just take another thou on each side, and we should be able to drop it in. We want it as tight as possible, and that's pretty much what we're doing. So I unwrapped the other cutters that I had bought for this bar because it's universal, and you know, this is the first one we did, which is 3/4 inch by 406 deep. And I discovered that the wider ones have a step on them, which isn't a big deal. We'll just mill this down a little bit and give ourselves a step, and it'll be fine. It'll actually, I think it'll work better. It'll give a little more we're not going to have problems with depth, because the smallest I'm going to run this on is probably like a 3.5 inch bore or so, and this is only 2 3/8. So we should be okay, but I'll just go ahead and mill that off. But for first, we're going to go ahead and square this end up. All right, so I switched over my end mill. The smallest one I have is an 1/8 inch, so that'll work out well for us. And I'm going to go ahead, I already set my depth, I already touched it off, zeroed my digital readout, and we'll come into the 2-inch depth that I need, and then I'm going to go in each way to widen that out and square it up. Well, that didn't work out well. What I think happened is my length of cut, yeah, I can feel it, was less than the depth of the groove here. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to change out, and I'm going to go ahead and mill this down for that step on the other cutters first, and then do the notching. Digging through my stuff, and I found this little guy with a long length of cut, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a try and see if I can't get those corners taken care of. As you could see from the flex of that 1/8 inch end mill, it wasn't going to work either. So I switched over to a 3/16. I'm just going to take a little bit bigger pass, going a little deeper to square up my corners. I was hoping to do it with as small a radius as possible, but that just wasn't going to be the case. So we need a little more rigidity on our tool, and this is about the only option we got. Well, I'd call that a perfect fit. We'll drill it for our bolts, and we're going to do a quarter 20 socket head cap screws is what it takes. just like that. Now we'll go ahead and get it in the vise and mill our flats on our sides to fit our holder. Okay, so we got to take 650 thousandths off each side, so we're going to first take a couple of parallels and lay them on the bottom of the vise to give me a little height for clearance for the first side. And then these flats I milled on there are actually for holding in the vise. Helps me get my position right where I need it to be. So the cutter I'm using here, this is a little bit bigger. This is a 3-inch, but the same cutter. Takes the TPG 320 series inserts. And we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take, I already touched everything off. We're gonna take 100 and, actually this first pass, we're gonna take 200 thou because we're not taking a whole lot. And this is 5 inserts, this should cut pretty good. There's the first side milled down. I'm gonna let this cool. I'm gonna probably go have lunch. Well, it's only 11:30. And then I'll come back and flip it over and mill the other side. We're back to finish the other side. Take 200 our first pass. Actually, I need to touch it off and zero my readout, and we're good to go. right, next step here is this. We're going to set up the Bridgeport and cut a taper on that just for a relief and make it look nicer. So these 4 nuts on the head here are what locks it in to allow it to swivel. And I do want to go that way. I'm going to shoot for about 10 degrees. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go for 15. And there it is. I will lock it back down. And you just want to snug these a little bit. You don't want to reef on them because you can actually damage the machine. And that should be a good angle for us. All right, well, we'll go ahead and start cutting on this. And this will all be by feel. So now when you're making more sparks than chips, yeah, it looks impressive, but that's telling me my inserts are dull. And so we just need to turn them. And it looks like I got one good corner left on that one. So we'll go through and we'll turn all these or replace them depending on how bad they are, if all of them are burned up or not. And sometimes I have mixed matched, you know, like that last one had one good corner left. This one actually has 2 good corners left, and that generally happens when you chip a corner. I just swap out, you know, if I break a corner and I turn it, then I'm down to using an extra corner on one and not the rest of them. And this one here has no good corners, so we'll go ahead and change that one. All right, let's try this again. We have, looks like all good, 5 good corners. And that's a lot better. And just like that, nice angle to that, nice looking tool. I'll flip it over and I'll go ahead and mill the other side to match. Well, there you have it, the shop-made slotter toolbar. Now, the slotter is set up pretty nice, how you can adjust your left to right with these screws here. And the way I made this bar is so I can use it on a longer stroke if I need to. Just raise it, lower it. This is a multi-purpose bar. So, should work well for this job. I'm looking forward to getting this set up and get going on it. So, with that, we'll end here. Until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.